Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Comics and Cosplay. I'm your host Ian, aka Mr. Double Extrude, and we're bringing you a brand new episode in our 3D printing series. And in this episode, I want to focus on talking about filament and giving you all the in-depth information you need to pick the correct filament for your next upcoming project. So if you remember from our first video, the introductory guide to buying your first 3D printer, we mentioned how 3D filament comes in two major sizes, 1.75 and 3 millimeters. And while there's no quality difference essentially in the different sizes, it's key that you get the correct size for your specific 3D printer. And I want to note that some of the more high-end 3D print manufacturers like to say that 3 millimeters prints at a much smoother consistency all throughout, and is why they prefer that over 1.75. So apart from the size difference, there's also a few different types of 3D filament and what type of material it's made from and that you can print on your 3D printer. Now the most common types are PLA and ABS. And the differences are, PLA is a much more brittle plastic, but it's a lot cheaper and easier to work with. Since it's not as heat sensitive as ABS, you can print it without a heated bed and don't have to worry so much about warping or misshapen prints. However, ABS, on the other hand, is a lot stronger of a material, but due to its heat sensitivity, you have to have a heated bed and have to be careful about the product warping or coming out with misshapen prints. There's also a lot of exotic and different types of filament that you can print on a 3D printer. There are types that are integrated with both gold or other various types of metals, not to mention there's glow-in-the-dark filament, transparent filament, and even flexible filament, popularly known as Ninja Flex, that prints in a much more bendable and flexible type material. Now a lot of these require different types of printer heads or special type beds, so it's key to make sure your 3D printer can print with these variety of 3D filament types. So with so many different types of filament on the market, it can be hard to choose what will be best for your next 3D cosplay project, and I would personally recommend that you stick with PLA for a couple of reasons. One being that it's incredibly cheap, it's super simple to print with, and you don't have to worry about it warping or having any other type of problems, especially given since you'll be finishing the printed items anyway by sanding them down and filling them in and painting them. There's no need to pay for the more high-end 3D filaments that will cost you more in the long run. So there are tons of 3D filament manufacturers, and it can be hard to choose one over the other, and unfortunately price isn't always an indicator of quality when picking a filament. And here's a couple of brands that I like in specific cases to use them for. I personally like Hatchbox a lot because it's relatively inexpensive. You can easily find it online at Amazon, and it has a lot of consistency in the quality of filament, allowing for a lot of good smooth prints. And the other brand that's commonly used is the eSun brand. Now eSun is insanely cheap, and it's probably the cheapest you can find out on the market. And I think it's great for doing a lot of test prints or when you're trying to size something up. Because it doesn't produce the greatest quality of prints, it's still good for a lot of testing out or figuring out what's going to be the optimal sizing or settings for your upcoming print. So I think I would really advise that you have both types so that you can use one for your more finished projects and one for your test roll for figuring out what's going to be the best option going forward. So that wraps up our incredibly exciting and riveting guide to 3D filament. It's probably the most engaging video you've seen on YouTube all week, I know. But this stuff is critical to know to make sure you pick the correct filament for your upcoming 3D project. And now for our new section, our Cosplay 3D Print of the Week. So that wraps up today's episodes. If you have any questions or comments, don't forget to leave them in the comment section down below, or if you have any topics you'd like us to cover, be sure to let us know those as well. And also, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos that we have coming up on 3D printing or any other cosplay topics. As always, I'm your host Ian, and I'll see you on the con floor. AKA Mr. Double Extrude. It sounds so weird.